Yeah, I usually... Anyway.
Yeah, you usually don't have a whole bunch of stuff go wrong.
Exactly. Like, for example, right now, where the hell is my chat window? There you are. Sneaky little booger. We are live, yes? Yes! And good morning. Okay, let me, I'm gonna bump that camera over just a hair for
Right.
the camera rolling. Boop, boop.
Camera for the camera. You know, I heard that joke my entire life, found it obnoxious, and then got into actually using cameras and was like, why didn't I just lean in? Why did I fight this whole time?
Yeah, I could have started earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm completely off the topic that I was planning to talk about this morning, but I will say, man, you know, I came to cameras and production and film and video, you know, basically after a military career, which was after a construction career, so kind of late to the game as far as coming to it later in life, and man, what a just brilliant space to work in. It's an infinitely fascinating thing, and the thing about, because it's art, and the thing about art and production is, like, as you learn more and more and more, it's like we've talked about with just working in nonlinear editing software like Adobe Premiere, etc. Every time you sit down to study and learn something about it, you learn a single thing that's just paradigm shifting for your entire understanding of the production process. It's amazing. But so good morning. We're running a little bit behind this morning, and I partially blame our buddy Patrick, because he and I were on the phone for a minute, frankly, talking about what we're about to discuss this morning. And I know, Steve, I know. But I want to talk about the train. I do. But
I'm kind of shocked we're not talking about the train, frankly. Like, everything about that situation is just
fluid. See, the thing about the train story... You mean like the
fluid that they deliberately drained out of the trains and then set on fire?
Yes. Or the additional fluids which were reported after the fact. The thing about the train situation, and basically this is what I want to do, I want to talk about tomorrow. Because just yesterday, there were a lot of, for example, there was another train.
In Arizona, Texas.
Just yesterday, there were several new developments that I have not had time to get caught up on yet. And it's one of those stories that's developing so fast. And unlike the guys that cover, you know, Tim Pool's done a pretty good job of coverage. The Daily Wire guys have. There has been some very good coverage on this, but I'm not full time on this gig right now, and I just haven't had time to catch up on it. So I've got a lot of reading to do today, and that's what I want to talk about tomorrow when I've had time to get my head around it more.
Okay.
This that we're going to talk about this morning, and that's the other piece of it, is you're a stickler for the themed show days. So today is
this
Woke
is my
Wednesday.
fault.
No,
Okay.
this is a gift to you for that reason. So it is Woke Wednesday.
It's the day after Valentine's Day, buddy. You're late.
Yeah, well, you was busy.
God, I was busy. I'll tell you about it off air, but I was busy, dude. Oh my God. Yesterday was a long day. I wish I was here. Let me tell you. Woo.
So, but it's Woke Wednesday. I want to talk about trains tomorrow. Today, I want to talk about teen girls. And guys, let me throw you a piece of advice real quick. If you're an artist, it's difficult. I had to design a thumbnail for the show this morning. Don't Google sad girls with phones. Don't Google sad girls on TikTok. Don't Google young girls on TikTok. The internet doesn't want to show you the images that you need to craft a decent and reasonable artistic image. They want to show you things that you shouldn't look at, and it hurt me.
Oh, don't worry. I'm what you think? We're like 3 to 5 years away from AI going, no problem. We're just going to show you a sad girl on a phone, so barely distinguishable from an actual girl on an actual phone.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that didn't happen to me this morning while I was trying to put together the thumbnail. And I mean, the thumbnail I put together is pretty banal, but here's what we're working with. There is a CDC report out, and we're going to talk a little bit about what has been going on that kind of got us here. CDC reports 60% increase in high school girls seriously considering or planning suicide. Sadness.
How do we know that, though? And I don't mean that to be. And
that's a very good question, because a report like this, a study like this, is almost. This is one of the problems with all the soft sciences is their hard data does not exist. For something like this, the closest thing you have to data is essentially the subjective self-reporting of, and I mean, we're talking about teenage girls, so let's be perfectly realistic about this. Unreliable sources.
No, teenage girls are flaky. No,
and
it's, well, look, there's the increase in victim culture, and I really think this dovetails into where you're going to take the direction of the show anyway.
Absolutely.
Like you get the cool points for being a suicide survivor, just like you get the cool points for all the other ists and isms and ologies and everything else that that you can make a Instagram post or a TikTok video and it turns out I found out this entire time that, if you go to this certain type of church that, forces you to eat fish, it was abuse this entire time, and I'm going to make an 8-minute TikTok video about it. So the fact that
having an OnlyFans account and deciding that that's the same as being trafficked.
Right. So I look, and I'm not meaning to be flippant. I'm just saying that since we live in a world where you could say, oh my God, I'm thinking about killing myself, and then you get 100,000 views, you might be motivated by things other than depression and suicidal ideation.
Yeah, and you actually jumped the gun a little bit on the next piece of the story. So I'm going to jump forward to, I was going to save this until after we'd gotten a little further into the article, but you definitely got a piece of it there. TikTok is giving teen girls Tourette-like tics. Doctors call it a pandemic. But here's what I want you to pay attention to. This is from almost 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half ago.
Right.
Right. So this is from that period into 2021 where we weren't really in lockdown, but everything was still kind of locked down. People were, we were still. People were still hiding in their houses, and you would actually hear reasonable people argue that there were reasonable people that wore masks, which is no longer true. I promise you today, you cannot find a person who is reasonable and argues that mask wearers are reasonable.
Yeah, okay, so the Fit Life with Danielle says, I know this is fun to laugh about, but we also know the numbers of teen suicides during lockdowns were staggering.
And still are.
Well, the lockdowns and the social media virus, which I'm going to call it that until something better comes along, because it's basically what it is.
Social contagion.
These are different things. At least we were adults when social media came along.
Right.
And we could choose to engage with it and recognize that it's an inherently narcissistic activity. Like us doing this podcast, we do it because it's fun, but we also do it because we like to talk and want to be on camera. There is an inherent, look at me, pick me, that goes along with it. But again,
well, if I'm being fair, beginning this podcast, the beginning of this podcast started with a conversation between us that went very much like this. You know, dude, we have conversations over coffee that are fascinating. And honestly, I think they're so fascinating that other people would enjoy listening to us talk to each other. And it turns out that a lot of people agree with that.
Well, some people agree with it, but
several hundred.
Look, I'm just saying that we were adults. Okay, we could choose to engage with it and all the positives and negatives and potential emotional fallout from it. But when when you roll that into a world where like TikTok is designed to hack the American brain, like there's no question about, yeah, sure, you can get TikTok in other countries, but TikTok's designed to hack the American brain. And I'm even going to take it to the next step and say TikTok is designed to hack the American female brain, the younger the better. And I don't mean this to be sexist. I just mean it as a statement of fact. It's what the commie bastards did. Like, I've never had a dude send me a TikTok video.
No.
I've had plenty of my female friends send me TikTok videos.
Now, okay, so I want to go back to a few things you said, and I'm not really arguing points you made, but a couple of them need to fit together differently or better. So one of the first things you said was something along the lines of, we're not talking about the pandemic and the actual pandemic and the lockdowns are separate and different from the TikTok pandemic, the TikTok disease, the social contagion stuff. Yes, but part of what has made the TikTok ticks, and we'll read this article in just a second, the social media, social contagion problem as bad as it is, was that for a year and change, for 2 years really, people were locked down in their homes, not allowed to go out, prevented from going out and interacting with the world. You couldn't touch grass, as it were. And so they retreated in to these social media platforms, and most especially TikTok, as we saw with the nurses, for example, who did those very, very tasteful videos dancing around the corpses, all of that. So while the pandemic itself and the lockdowns themselves are a separate issue from this, it's also true that at a minimum, the TikTok ticks, the social contagion problem, was exacerbated by the cloistering of people and kind of taking away all their options for entertainment apart from consuming the social media. So that's the first thing. And then the other one that you said that I want to quibble with a bit is that TikTok is designed to hack the American young female brain. I want to caveat that.
That was my fault.
Okay. The TikTok is also spreading a piece of the social contagion that is responsible for the dramatic, sharp rise in trans identification. And while you're correct that the primary hacking target is young American females, the maybe secondary target is, for the reason of it targeting primarily young American females, is to target young American males for gender transition so that they become that target, at least psychologically and functionally. And that is an attack which cannot be ignored. I would couple that with referring you to the results of the Chinese one-child policy, which had the predictable and obvious result of a dramatic increase in China of homosexuality, especially among young men, and a dramatic increase in the deep feminization of the males there. And the modern result, China realized that, oh no, we're about to have a population decrease problem, and the Chinese government actually has begun in the past several years to take very serious maneuvers to try and prevent the feminization of Chinese boys and to censor things like feminized men performing pop cultural material. So the targeting of our boys for gender transition by the TikTok propaganda machine is a very serious problem related to this TikTok ticks phenomenon that we're talking about.
Steve just had an A+ comment. This sounds like a chemical attack that nobody can smell or see. I would have been okay with talking about the trade, but that's funny where he brought about. Okay, I don't think you're quibbling so much.
Expounding.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, young females drive the zeitgeist. We might not like it. We might hate it. We might try and control it and put guardrails on it. But young women tend to shape culture, and they do it because they're who the young men are going after. Like, so.
Well, much like the house, they control the purse strings.
Exactly, and that's not much of an exaggeration.
Gentlemen,
okay.
you spend money on two things: a hobby and whatever that woman wants.
Yeah, your hobby and her hobby, right?
If you're lucky, you have a jobby. That's a hobby that pays money.
I know. Okay, but it's designed to hack the young female brain because you're going to pull the men in with it inevitably. Okay, there's no way around that. Like, it's not dudes who made the Beatles the first great superstar rock band. It was girls.
Dudes got on TikTok because they said, "Hey, where the women at?"
Honestly, yes. That's why I believe so many of your male feminists are fake. They're not actually male feminists. It's just where the women are at. And it turns out that
they're what's called a sneaky fucker.
Exactly. Okay. And in fact, it's even a target-rich environment because they go, "Hey, man, all these empowered women say you should have sex on the first date. All I have to do is get one date."
Stryker, that's the difference between the difference between if she's a hobby and a jobby is whether or not you're a pimp.
So all this stuff about specifically, okay, because this is something that I've been thinking about quite some time. It's a thing that Scott Adams has been hammering, that TikTok is actually one of the biggest threats to American culture. Not just the fact that China's using it for the data collection and the spying and everything, but the fact that it is so deliberately targeted to just like tunnel straight down the middle of the American psyche that...
I got this book sitting back here entitled The Source Book of Magic. This isn't some new age witchcraft thing. This is a book on neurolinguistic programming and neurolinguistic hacking, right? You cannot underestimate the absolute power of direct psychological warfare.
Yeah, so if you take the 16-year-old girls and you break them, it might have a delayed response, but you can essentially break a culture. Like all this stuff with the boys being confused about being girls, and yes, I said it. I'm at the point where I am done playing the game. Well, I'll respect your choices. No, I won't.
It is ma'am. Yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah, basically. Okay. Golly.
That's right, Sean.
But that's how far we've gotten, okay? Because women, okay, nice women, well-intentioned women, okay. This is not some secretly coded misogynistic rant here. No, because it is women that force society to be polite. Okay, hold on.
You go where the girls are. When I was about 22, 23 years old, I found myself at a gay bar being hit on by a tranny. And I looked at her. I said, "You're a huge bitch." You know how I ended up in that gay bar? I followed a blonde chick in there.
Yeah.
We were at a party. I think you were actually there. We were at this party in Athens, and the hottie chicks wanted to go to this bar, and I was too drunk to hear them say, "Oh, well, the bar's called Bone Shakers," and I was way too hammered to put two and two together. I was like, "Yeah, whatever, let's go. Y'all want to go party? Let's go party." And still had fun, but that's what following them would do to you. You'll find yourself in places.
Okay. Anyhow, I guess that's.
I was trying to bolster your point.
Okay.
Okay. So TikTok ticks. Let's take a look at this. So you are the article said, this New York Post. You are what content you consume. Physicians and hospitals all over the world are reporting a bizarre phenomenon that's seen a rapid rise in teenage girls developing tics, physical twitches, which doctors believe may be derived from TikTok. It goes so far as to say the Wall Street Journal has confirmed an uptick in tics across several U.S. hospitals. At Texas Children's Hospital, the caseload for patients with tics was just 1 or 2 per year prior to the pandemic. That rate has since multiplied by a few dozen, now up to 60 patients reporting tics since March 2020. Similarly, Johns Hopkins University Tourette's Center saw 10 to 20% of its pediatric patients arrived with these symptoms during the past year, whereas the typical rate prior to the pandemic was just 2 to 3% annually. Now, they talk about the difference between transient tics and chronic tics, a chronic tic being one that stays with you for a long time. A transient tic, which is most common in very young children. They'll learn a physical habit and they'll repeat it, It seems like obnoxious behavior, or it may be a phrase that they repeat too often from a cartoon they saw, or, you can't use vulgarity in front of children because it will absolutely be the only word they understood and repeat, and they will continue to repeat it. But that's a transient thing, and it's more of a developmental behavioral activity than it is a mental disorder in the majority of occurrences. When you start talking about teenage girls developing similar transient tics because they watched a TikToker talk about having such a disorder. Hey, I'm on TikTok because I have Tourette's and I need to talk about my Tourette's. Maybe there is a therapeutic element there for some of the genuine cases, but I promise you this, if you go take a look at TikTok, you will find